Welcome to Channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. G'day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrating to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell on the side, so once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one getting all the insight. Now today's video is all about news just came out right after our business hours last week. Now I hate to say that because look, why did they do that? Because anyway, let's catch it up. So on Monday, it's only 2 days over a weekend, no problem, we'll get it updated for you. So, and that's the purpose of this channel, isn't it? Getting all the updated information. Now, it's not an actual policy of visa yet, but it's a signal how there's so many other forum, business industry buddies, lobbying, talking to the new Minister of Immigration of Australia with the new government. Obviously, there's a lot of things there required to be fixed. Let's have a look and go in there and how they're going to address the aged care issue. Now, before we begin, we go through that news article and give you a little bit of the background. So, before the Liberal government, which is the former government, took place, prior to that, obviously it was Labor back then, that's almost like 10 years ago, there was a promoted policy of visa allowing aged care international students to further enhance migrate as a skilled migrants. So back then, I recall long ago, there was a lot of private institutions coming out teaching people how aged care, the practice of certificate 1, 2, 3, and how they place these people into the aged care to assist the aged pensioners. Now, obviously, the Liberal government came along 9 years ago. They changed the occupation list. By how? By divided into two occupation lists with the short term and the medium long term. And unfortunately, aged care workers was in short term, so it's actually become very hard. No aged care international student graduate could actually gain 485 visas, so a lot of these courses had diminished over the past 9 years. No one's really talking about aged care, but obviously the COVID pandemic came 2 years ago, and they straightly noticed that the lack of aged care workers is actually across the whole nation. Now they are putting nurses into aged care, which is fine, but if they would have more aged care workers rather than nurses, wouldn't that help a lot more? Anyway, it's one of the things that the former government has screwed up, the policies and immigration system. But anyhow, I don't think they expected there was a virus came along, which obviously had broke a lot of lies and had triggered a lot of disadvantage of the new system that they have putting in place, which disadvantages a lot of other skilled migrants. Anyway, let's have a look what the new government might do and how the aged care industry body had actually talked through to the new government and the new Minister of Immigration. So here we go. Again, you can see 3rd of June, last Friday, 4:49 p.m. Come on, it's just about to get off the work with some beers and the news came out, so I didn't have time to actually record this. As over the weekend I was away with my family. Anyway, let's have a look. So the title says address genuine skill shortage. Well, yeah, there's so many genuine skill shortages out there. What about backlog anyway? New aged care ministers migration focus. I'm very welcome on this one. Obviously, aged care is a big sector, big industry, and require a lot of intentions. Of course, we're in 2022, about 67 years away from World War II, where the baby boomers came out after World War II, and there are a lot of aged people around the world. So aged care is a big sector. Every government, every country required to pay much more attention on this one, and this is what had been lack over the past 9 years. The new aged care minister will begin looking at the prospect of using migration to help fill tens and thousands. Wow, look at this, tens and thousands vacancies across sector, as both union provider call for permanent residency for imported staff. Now, how are they going to do that? Well, my prediction will be, well, a lot of these aged care will reside in regional areas. So if they could basically change that 494 visa. Remember, I don't know, last week's video I've done it, how they have fucked up the system. If they can revert the 494 visa back to 187, that will be the best solution to this. Anika Wells, well, anyway, perhaps with some additional criteria, but anyway, I don't know what's gonna be. But let's have a look. Anika Wells said that the border now open. She would work with Immigration Minister Andrew Giles. Anyway, it's gonna be Giles or Giles. I've seen some news reporter pronounce it Giles, but some other people pronounce it Giles. Anyway, the Minister of Immigration develop policies that allow recruitment overseas worker to meet projected increased demand for labor, address genuine and persistent skill shortage in the industry. Yes, rather than sending registered nurses to aged care to fix the issue, we should have registered nurses in hospital and in clinic help out with all these pandemic issue, isn't it? If we would had more aged care workers in these 2 years, a lot of things might be different, you see. Anyway, we can't go back to time, but I really like to watch those scientific movies, but we really cannot go back in time. Let's have a read further. While recruitment of Australian to fill out aged care sector is priority of government, migration has historically played a role. Aged care workforce will continue to play a role in the future. Yes, not until the former government came on board, everything's changed. The crisis plagued sector of the workers with previous border closure, worsened skill shortage, and that's what happened. So the last month operator needs almost 60,000 workers to plug in the national staff gap. Look at that. Now, obviously, there's a very low unemployment rate because there's just not enough people working there. Okay, while with the provider calling for prioritized childcare for workers, as well as migration incentives such as help the school housing to draw people back into the workforce. Now, that is very good. So this news is actually the reason I'm putting this news and read this out, because they're not just addressing the aged care sector, but I think every sector needs a fix. Now, the quick fix, or not quick, well, will be migrants, skilled migrants from overseas can help out a lot. Pat Garcia, Chief Executive of Catholic Health Australia, CHA, the country's largest aged care body, has called pathway residency to induce workers to come to Australia. The body would previously recommend a moratorium on prioritizing local recruitment before looking overseas. Paul Sattler, acting head of the umbrella body Age and Community Care Provider Association, said that the organization wants personal care workers to be addressed as skilled migration lists. With keen for a plan for all these foreign workers, we also call for federal government to prioritize creating training Australian workforce with real wage increase, which the Albanese government had just done over I think last week. Well said, the policies and the unions. National President Jared Hayes, who's leading worker, pushed the 25% wage rise. Now that's a lot. Last week is only 5.1%. 25%, that is a lot. Said the system needs to prevent exploitation of a visa holder, also guard against the undercutting pay. He described the Wales approach as a common sense position. Whether they're going to raise that up for skilled migrants, I'm not too sure, because if they do that, probably some of the small, medium-sized businesses won't be able to actually employ. But let's see what happens. Everything will flow. United World Union aged care director Caroline Smith agreed the goal was to make sure those recruited from overseas weren't vulnerable to be exploited. We've got to make sure that. So they're also talking about how they got to save, not to allow overseas skilled workers to be exploited by the system there. So, well, look, what I can foresee is what's going to happen here is that I think ultimately the criteria and the policies for skilled migrant to come on board will be changed. For example, altering the current 494 visas, perhaps make it more like 482, rather than going straight back to 187 where they provide PR straight away. So then the provider will be they will worry that if they got permanent resident, they will just work for 3 months and gone. Okay, so rather than do that, why don't we have a 494 visa that basically does not require skill assessment anymore, but you need to provide you have some work experiences just like 482, and then they will be allowed to actually go into the sector and work for 3 years in order to transfer into a permanent residency. Or perhaps they can do their skill assessment, but they don't need work experiences required to be there in order to, because currently 494 requires skill assessment plus 3 years of work experiences. Now, again, what I'm trying to say is if you got 3 years of work experiences, now despite HK is not in the medium long-term list, you might as well just lodge a 186 direct entry. Why going through all these hassles? It's the 494 should have an attractive view, allowing skilled migrant coming from overseas not to be exploited, but continue to stay for employment in regional area and promote them to transfer into permanent residency after numbers of years of employment completions. So I think that would be a fair go. But anyway, we don't know the policy yet, but I think this news is actually very welcome and a good side of what we are expecting will come out in the future. And I don't think it's just not gonna fix in the aged care sector, but it's gonna go across a lot of different sectors, because I know and we know the system has been screwed up and fucked up badly for the past 9 years, not month. It requires a major fix to be there. Anyway, should you have more question query, more than welcome to leave a comment right down below, and I see you next video. Goodbye.